Behold, my tower, what I printed on the Creality CR10-SE, which they very kindly sent over to me to check out. I really like this thing. It's also, I'm going to put it down. Like, it comes apart, which is great, but it makes it very difficult to oh dear. Oh. It's fine, nothing bad happened. You don't need to see over there. It's not like it's all over the floor. It actually isn't. I managed to save it. I'll put it down nice and safe. I've lost the door, though. Where is the door? Found it. Found the door. There we go. Anyway, back to the point. Creality sent me the CR10-SE to check out, and when they reached out to me, I had like a dual thing of trepidation and excitement, to be honest. The trepidation comes from the fact that my first FDM printer was a Creality printer. It was an Ender 3, and it really didn't want to work ever. Just as a general blanket statement, it just wasn't having it as a whole, and it made my first FDM printing experiences not the best. And you know, you always have that thing of, I've had a product from this company before, it didn't perform that well, so when you look at getting something else from them, there's always that little thing in the back of your head that says, oh, but what if it's not good though? What if it's still not great? Luckily, that was not an issue with the CR10-SE. I've had absolutely no problems with it. It's been ridiculously easy to use so far, in a way that's worrying me slightly, as though I'm building up some sort of karmic retribution for having no issues. But that was the trepidation. The excitement came from two different things on the sort of spec, the feature list for this particular printer, which was hands-free auto-leveling and a 600mm a second max printing speed. Those two things made me super excited, because even though I do quite a bit of FDM printing these days, if there's one thing I really don't want to do ever, it's level the bed. I know, it's an issue, it's a problem, it's entirely my problem, because that's kind of integral to the whole FDM printing thing. You have to make sure that the bed is level, otherwise the layers go down wrong, you end up with a spaghettified mess, or you end up dragging part of what you were printing all over said bed, whilst all of the plastic just builds up around the nozzle and creates some sort of nurglified, humongous ball of hate just casually sitting there, completely making it impossible for you to print anything else. It's a me thing. It's definitely a me thing, right? I understand that, but that doesn't change the fact that I don't want to have to deal with it. And so far, I haven't had to do anything with the CR10-SE other than go, calibrate yourself, please. And then it goes, I've calibrated myself. And then I say, print this for the next 12 to 14 hours. And then it does it. And that's it. Don't have to do anything else. Brilliant. The other thing that was exciting, of course, was speed, because FDM printing is many things, but quick is usually not one of them, and the CR10-SE is faster than any other printer I've had by far. Now, when I got it, I immediately set it to work printing the last parts I needed for a ship for D&D, because my D&D party is about to go on a voyage on the high seas on some sort of steampunk-esque vessel, and I still needed various bits printing on it, so its test print was effectively a roof section for the top deck of a ship, a nice little smooth, curved, eagle-shaped bit of architecture, if you will, and it came out really nicely, as did pretty much everything else. Once that was done, I moved on to printing a house, because I need a house for D&D as well. So, I used a house from Ian Lovecraft on my mini factory, and I was really impressed with how this came out. Now, I've mostly been using just the default settings that come with Creality Print, which are designed to go with the Hyper PLA that Creality also sent me. Looks like this. This isn't one of the two reels. I've used the two reels they sent. This is one that I bought, which is going to be going on pretty much as soon as we finish this video, because I have more stuff to print. The only settings that I changed in Creality Print were the ones for the infill, which I simply changed to be 5%, and the brim, which I go for a massive brim on my prints because I'm paranoid. Anyway, the second thing I printed off was this house, and I'm impressed with the finish. It's nice and smooth, it's nice and clean. There isn't too much in the way of variation when it comes to the different layers. It's pretty good. Something that I have noticed with this printer is that it produces a lot of webbing, stringing, so just thin wisps of filament that kind of jut out of different sections of the print. Now, it doesn't bother me too much because they're very easy to remove, but it is something that I've noticed happening more with this one than any of my other printers. Now, to be honest, I don't fully know the reasons behind that because I'm still very much an enthusiastic amateur. I don't have a huge amount of experience in troubleshooting this kind of thing. I'm assuming that it's just down to bits being caught by the nozzle as it moves away, and it's just drawing it out and making this long sort of wispy stringy bit. It doesn't bother me too much, but it is something that I have noticed is more prevalent with prints that I've made on the CR10-SE. Now, the third and arguably more impressive project that I put this thing through was building this, the Crow Tower. Now, I'll put a link to all of the things that this is printed in the description so you can take a look at them for yourselves. But I really wanted a big wizard/witch's tower. This fully fit the bill, and the CR10-SE printed this really, really quickly, and it came out really nicely as well. Again, a fair bit of that webbing and stringing, but nothing too horrendous to deal with. The detail has come out really nicely, the overall texture is good. It might just be me passing a more critical eye over it because I'd used it quite a bit by that point, but I had noticed that on this tower there was more variation between the different layers, so there was a little bit more noticeable kind of striping going on. Now, with heavily textured models like these, it doesn't bother me too much, but if I was going for a completely flat surface, I think it would probably stand out more. But on the other hand, this thing printed really, really quickly. It was like a few batches of 12 to 14 hour prints. I think it might have only been about 30 to 33 hours total, which for something of this size is pretty good. Now, just to compare the speed of that, these two buildings here were printed on my larger capacity printer. It's got a good size build plate, so these come in two different parts. You got the roof and you've got the actual building itself, and all of these parts printed at the same time. This came out at like 50 hours for printing these two. Now, that printer is obviously a lot slower, but these are not as much in terms of detail, in terms of just sheer size, in terms of quantity, as the Crow Tower. So hopefully that highlights how much quicker the CR10-SE can be if you want it to be. So in my experience so far, the CR10-SE has done exactly what I hoped it would do. It's been relatively maintenance free. I've not had to mess around with leveling. It's just done all of the calibration itself. It does print a lot quicker than anything else that I own FDM wise, but it's not perfect. For a start, there is the price. Right now, there is a sale going on, which means it's only £369, which is a lot of money, but that's down from £439. So this is an expensive option when it comes to picking up an FDM printer for home use, at least. Now, it does come with things that are really helpful and nice to have, like an LED lighting strip at the top so that you can see what you're doing. It also connects to the Creality Print software so that you can just send prints directly to the printer as long as it's on and has filament, obviously. There's also plenty of options for DIY accessories and the like, but that's still quite an ask. It's still quite a lot of money. I think you could also argue in some cases there's something of a lack of precision as well, though that could probably be solved by reducing the print speed, adjusting settings and so on. But straight out of the box, it does do nice prints, but there is more cleanup than I'm used to dealing with out of my other printers. For me, the auto leveling is really, really nice, but I do know there are plenty of you out there who actually prefer to have more of a manual input on the bed leveling process, and that's just not an option with this printer. So that's something that is to be considered if you're thinking about it. Finally, something that is not a massive deal to me, but could be a big deal to others, is the absolute volume of noise that comes off this thing. The fan at 100% sounds like a jet taking off. The speed of the head moving around is great, but it also is just a loud printer. It's louder than any of the others that I've had. Just overall noise coming off it is fairly significant. Now, it's not a big deal to me because the printer lives over there. It's in the garage, and it's in a place where you can't really hear it in the rest of the house, except for at night. Now, of course, if you're doing a really long, big print, then the chances are it's going to take long enough that you might end up having it go a little bit into the evening. I could hear the printer upstairs in the bedroom, even though it is not near the bedroom. The sound just carried, and it's not a case of, oh, well, you know, all noise will carry to a certain extent. That is true, but I can't hear my other printers in other rooms of the house, but I can definitely hear this one in other rooms of the house, and they are all in the same place. So that is definitely something that It's not necessarily an issue for me, it doesn't bother me, and for the vast majority of time when I've set prints going, they have finished long before it would be an issue, but it is noisy. Overall though, whilst the price might be high and the noise level might be high, I can't really complain about the CR10-SE. It's printed everything I've asked of it. It's been really good in combination with the Hyper Series PLA that they do. It has printed no failures, partial or full. I've only had good finished prints out of it from the moment I set it up with minimal testing. The standard settings on the Creality print software have worked super well so far, and outside of doing a little more clearing up in terms of the kind of stringing and webbing, everything's come out at a decent quality at a high speed. Thank you to Creality for sending the CR10-SE over for me to check out. I am literally going to go and load this up again and start printing something else because there's more stuff I need for D&D, and frankly, being able to churn out entire buildings in the course of a day is pretty nice. It's pretty nice. For now though, thank you very much for watching. If you've got a CR10-SE or have experience with one, then say so in the comments down below and let us know what you think as well. In the meantime, feel free to click all the things, all of them, every single thing that you see on the screen. Click all of it, even stuff that's nothing to do. No, don't do that. These intros are getting worse. I'll see you next time.